Hello there, and welcome to Growing Hope 2022. I am Kathryn Lang, and I sure have missed hanging out with you, encouraging each other, growing up in hope, building up these hearts open to pursue the extraordinary, as my son likes to say. So, the last time we were together, we were in this journey of chaos. And that chaos really hasn't changed all that much. It's shifted. It has redirected some, but it hasn't gone away. In 2020, the world turned upside down in more ways than one. For us, not only did we have to deal with what was going on in the world, but in our own lives, a tornado landed on our house, complete Dorothy style. It was pretty much only our house that got hit by that single tornado. There was other tornadoes that touched down the same night, but ours got its own EF1 tornado. And just for the record, if you ever get the opportunity to encounter an EF1 tornado on your own, you can pass. I've done it for you. You don't want to do it. But being unsettled in that situation really gave me a lot of excuses for not doing what I wanted to do or what I knew I was supposed to be doing. And sometimes the excuses were of my own making. Sometimes the excuses were handed to me on a silver platter. But it didn't matter. It was an excuse. And there's always going to be an excuse. There's always going to be a reason not to do something. The enemy doesn't want you pursuing your unique design. And so the excuses are going to be handy. But it turns out that if I just choose to do what I need to do, then I'll get it done. But I can also choose to let the excuses hold me back. And there's always something that will. So even now, right now, despite all the planning I've put into this new normal of unsettled that we're in right now, this new season, despite all that I knew was going to happen, it hasn't. Here we are 2 months into our new unsettled, and I'm still struggling to even get a baseline focus. I knew that I wanted to develop an office space that was going to be strictly for production, and at least that space is empty. I can say that it's ready, but it's not even close to being the production office that my husband and I had both decided we wanted to do. Don't even get me started about the boxes. The number of boxes that we unloaded when we moved into this new season. Yeah, we don't want to go there. We could do our own HGTV series just with our boxes. So in short, well, I guess not so short, but anyway, there are reasons. There's literally reasons stacked up around me not to be doing what I know to be doing. But one of my plans this year was to be intentional. My focus word, my anchor word for 2022, the one that anchors my whiteboard of world domination, is intentional. I had every desire to be intentional. Okay, had every plan to be intentional. Not so sure that the desire was always there, but I knew that I wanted to be intentional with what I was doing and what I was choosing. Well, it's just been over these last couple of weeks that I really got intentional in what I chose to do, what I chose to eat, what I chose to watch, what I chose to listen to. Are you sensing the pattern that I found? It turns out it's all about my choices. And I hate that because that means it's all on me. But over the next several weeks, really going to be talking about how to live a radical life, a radical, intentional life, not to be caught up in the excuses and not to be trapped by the reasons that are all around us, but to intentionally, radically shout down the negatives and shout out the possibilities, one little bit at a time. Because there are going to be people who tell you you can't do it. You're going to tell you you can't do it. I mean, come on. Sometimes you're going to be stubborn enough to keep going, but too many times you're going to be worn down by those I can'ts if you aren't positioned already to live your I cans. So Some of the I can'ts that I have personally faced or can'ts, not I can'ts, although their can'ts became my I can'ts. So they told me I couldn't dance because I was too heavy. They told me I couldn't speak because I didn't look like a model. They told me I couldn't write because I didn't have a voice like everyone else. They told me I couldn't make a difference in other people's lives because my life wasn't perfect. Or I couldn't make a difference in people's lives because I hadn't walked that same path. And the more the can'ts were spewed at me, the more I began finding excuses not to do what I felt like I needed to be doing. I can't because I have to get the sock drawer organized. I mean, seriously, I've used that. I can't because I didn't wash my hair, and who hasn't used that, right? And I can't because I know that I'm different, and I know that I could be better, or I know that I should have done A, B, C before I try to do that. So I got very good, very consistent at making excuses not to do what I knew I needed to be doing. And then, because that's really how it all comes up, right? And then someone reminded me that what I wrote, what I say, what I share really matters. And it came in a simple a tweet on a Twitter chat. She simply said, "I miss your emails." Now, I hadn't been doing my emails because I hadn't been writing on my blog, because I hadn't been focused on my writing, but on other things. I just had a lot of reasons, a lot of excuses not to do that little thing. But I also knew in my heart, and I know today, that I'm the only one that has my purpose, my focus, my voice. So I'm the only one that can do it the way I do it. Nobody else can share with you the way I share with you, because thank God there's no one else out there like me. You know, it's a good thing God has made us all unique, because can you imagine a world of a bunch of you, a bunch of me? You know, it's just one of us. So no matter how many excuses that I can find, none of them block the reality of that truth. I am unique. So I've had to shift my thinking to something more radical. I can. Right? Just like the little engine. I can. I am. I will. Those are the mantras that I am seeking to live by. I did this in the past with the focus folder, and you can learn more about the focus folder over at snarkyrainbows.com or kathrynlang.com. But I know that if I'm going to live a radical life, if you're going to live radically and intentionally, that you have to make radical choices. And they have to be beyond the limits of what people have decided for you, or what limits they have set, or even what box they've built. You're sometimes going to be doing something that only you are doing, because that's what it means to live your uniqueness, that you're not doing it like anybody else, or you're not doing it exactly like anybody else. So we have to be able to see beyond our I can'ts. We have to forge past those. We have to dare to determine that we can, and we will, and we are living our big dream goals. So what do you have to do to live a radical and intentional life? Well, first you have to determine what really matters to you. Then you have to define your success. You have to develop your intentional action mantra, and you have to direct your focus to your big dreams. And finally, you have to demand that you will take action. So it's simple. Okay, it is simple, but it's not always easy. Easy would mean that nothing's going to get in the way. And let's just go ahead and say there's going to be friction or roadblocks or bumps or pitfalls. That the easy path would mean none of that would exist. But that's not going to happen. Sometimes you are the pitfalls and the bumps in the road. So we know that the world's going to throw that at us. We just have to determine that our road less traveled is going to be bold and purposeful and purpose-filled. We have to find our unique ways around and through and over, and sometimes straight under the hindrances or the moments, so that we can get to where we want to be. even when it truly matters and we desperately, truly want to live a different way, we are sometimes pushed to go a different way. Sometimes we get stopped. So what is it that is going to stop your radical and intentional life? Well, the first thing is the same old, same old. Okay? So my husband walks the dog most days. Since we've gotten into this new situation, this new season, he does it every day. The same exact path every single time he walks the dog. Now, those of you who know me know that I rarely take the same path. And it's the same way with walking the dog. And that poor dog, God love him, every time we go out, he and I, he'll just look at me like, where are you going? Well, that's not the way we go. And even when my husband walks with us, I still take different paths. And I do it intentionally. I want to see other things. I want to see what's going on. But I also don't like the path that my husband walks. So my husband is trained as much as the dog is to take this one path. But once I get the dog moving, he's fine with it. He's like, okay, this works. Where are we going? What are we going to do? And he starts checking things out. So I have to be okay with not doing things the exact same way they've always been done. I have to be okay with doing things a little bit different than the way I scheduled. And I have to be okay with the fact that my family makes plans without telling me, even if it's not in my focus folder. So it's okay to do things differently. When you're living a radical life, then as long as you are acting intentionally, as long as you are very purposeful in your actions, it's okay. It's okay to be a little bit different. It's okay to take a little bit of a different path. It's okay to have a different cadence for the moment. It all comes down to this. You can't stay where you are and get to where you want to be. Period. It's just not physically possible. You have to take steps that will move you out of your current comfort zone. Your current comfort zone is not the radical life that you truly desire. If it was, then you wouldn't be seeking change. The second thing that hinders a radical and intentional life is fear. Fear. Fear of what others might say, fear of falling, fear of failing, fear of the unknown, fear of the missing out, fear of you kind of get the point here. So basically fear comes in whatever form it is that stops you. It can be this fear, the fear, false evidence appearing real. Okay, that is not the same fear that you would encounter, say, if you're walking in the forest and you come upon a mother grizzly bear. See, that's legitimate fear because mother grizzly bears are not happy people. But a irrational fear would be if you were out walking the dog in the middle of town in Alabama and you started worrying about coming up on a grizzly bear and her cubs. So that's the fear that we're talking about. This imagined fear, this created fear that we grow up in ourselves, or that's fed to us more often than not. So the more that you can imagine, the more energy you put into imagining these different fears, the more legs you're going to give the fear. And Lord knows you don't need to feed fear more legs because that just adds to your fear. So if you want to cut the legs out from under fear, you have to feed your hope. There's no other way around it. Every time fear tries to rear its ugly head, just focus on something hopeful. Feed it something hopeful. Say something hopeful. Because look, you're going to fall. Here's how you feed that. I will learn even if I do fall. You're going to fail. And here's how you feed that. Failing only happens when I don't try. And I choose to learn from each try. You don't know what's going to happen. and you can't know what's going to happen because you haven't taken this step before. You will miss out if you allow fear to stop you. You will miss out on the limits and the limitations if you step. So you're going to miss out one way or the other, right? So it's okay to have those butterfly feelings about fear, about the limits, about the limitations, but jump anyway, right? Your fear-fighting mantras don't have to be like mine, and they shouldn't be like mine because my fears are different from your fears. My mantras are different from your mantras. My journey is different from yours, and my voice is different. So the more you invest in growing up your courage, the more you're going to find your voice for those positive reinforcements, the hope that kills fear. The third thing that holds us back from a radical and intentional life is discouragement. It didn't work before, so why bother? I've been living that for the last 2 years, with all sincerity. The unsettledness of what we've been going through the last 2 years has been emotionally, mentally, physically exhausting. But we've had to keep going. There's just no other way to live. You have to keep going. Another one of those discouragement moments is when you think, it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It turned out different. It wasn't what I thought it would be. Why try now, right? If you've ever attempted to lose weight, then you may have found yourself on that whole treadmill of deflation. I have walked 4,000 miles this week, and I gained 12 pounds. I can remember attending a class with someone, and she's like, I gave up a chocolate biscuit this week, and I lost 7 pounds. And I'm thinking, I did everything possible, and I didn't have that success. How unfair is that? But discouragement will push you to compare yourself to someone else, and your journey is unique to you. So if you're looking at what they did and comparing it to what you're doing, then you're allowing discouragement to take the wheel. Discouragement will always find someone that's doing better and make you compare yourself to them, because that's the way discouragement wins. Discouragement is very closely related to fear, and sometimes they're going to leave the door open for each other. So learn to recognize discouragement by how you feel. What's the weight on your shoulders or the heaviness in your heart? Discouragement is going to do all it can to pull you down. And when you begin to feel this, then you want to find ways to relieve that weight, because the weight's going to make you, the heaviness is going to make you think, I don't want to. I don't want to try. I don't want to do. I don't want to move. So when you feel it, shake it off. Just shake it off, one little bit at a time. And that one little bit can be different for everybody. A little bit of dancing, a little bit of laughing, a little bit of actually getting dressed for the day, or getting dressed to go out, or getting dressed like you're going to go out even if you don't plan on going out. It's just this little bit, a little bit of courage, a little bit of hope, a little bit of different, that's going to begin to build you up to defeat that discouragement. The fourth thing that holds you back from your radical and intentional life is confusion. If you don't know where you're going, then it doesn't matter what you do, because you won't know when you get there, or if you're there, or even why you're there. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a designation, then you will stay confused about how to move. And you won't be able to explain it. You won't be able to show it. You'll just be stuck every single time. So when I was in high school, my geometry teacher, Mr. Godwin, thank you, Mr. Godwin, for so many of my lessons. But Mr. Godwin showed us how to draw a straight line without using a ruler. Now, if you've never tried this exercise, it's a great exercise, and it is true every single time. He simply said to draw 2 dots. Put your pencil on the first dot, and then look at the second dot. Okay? So you're going to put your pencil on the first dot, you're going to look at the second dot, and then you're going to move your pencil to the second dot without taking your eyes off that second dot. It's key. You can't take your eyes off that second dot. And as long as you keep your eyes on the end point of where you want your pencil to go, then you'll draw a straight line. What that means is that if you're trying to get from point A to point B in your life, if you're too busy looking around, then you won't take a straight line. We were hiking yesterday, just yesterday we were hiking, and I discovered that if you really get caught up in looking where you go, looking around you, and engulfed in what's going on around you, you're going to trip. It doesn't matter how smooth the path is, you're going to trip. So if you don't have an endpoint, then your endpoint's going to keep changing, and your line is not going to be straight. Know your journey so you can know your steps. And the fifth and final point of this radical and intentional life is that you, or the thing that keeps you from your radical intentional life, is the people around you. We all have those people around us that say no. They tell us what we're doing is wrong, or at least it's not right, and then they warn us of the impossibility of the task. If you don't have those people around you, then you have the interrupters around you. And those are the ones that wait until the last moment and you're drawing that perfect line and they nudge you or send your pencil all over the place. or they wait until you're halfway through your line and they yell and send your pencil all over the place. So the people around us can keep us from living intentional and radical lives, or they can detour us from where it is that we want to go. Sometimes it's purposeful. Sometimes they're doing it on purpose because they don't want you to live that radical life. Sometimes they just don't realize it. They're caught up in their own lives. They're doing what they want to do. And when this happens, take a moment to look at it from their perspective, Are they concerned about your well-being or worried about being left behind? Have they supported you in the past, or have they always been the Debbie Downers? Do they look for your strengths, or do they focus on your weaknesses? Are they perfect? Or do they reflect their own struggles into your life? So once you understand the heart of the people that you're dealing with, it's a whole lot easier to keep them from hindering your radical and intentional life. Once you know who you're dealing with and why you're dealing with them, then you can make better choices for moving forward, or moving around, or sometimes moving right through the middle. You have to live on purpose to live in purpose. It's not a coincidence. It's never going to be an accident. It's not even the luck of the draw. Purpose living is about the intentional choices made in life and for life. No matter where you want to go, you have to be intentional about the going. Yes, you're the only one that can do it. Others can't do it for you. They can't stop you. Now, they might do things for you that can help you create that intentional life, and they might do things against you to stop you from living that intentional life, but you have to intentionally take the steps in order to live a radical, intentional life. No matter what your big dream goals are, you have to be intentional about setting and pursuing those goals. No matter what it is that you are trying to do or to be, it all comes back to you. Others can give, others can take away, but they cannot force that drive that moves you into your radical life. If you want to live radical, and by radical I simply mean your unique and purpose-driven life. That's all. In a world that is completely chaotic and off kilter, when you walk your walk, that's considered radical. But if you want to live that radical life, it's going to be your choice. You have to step into it. You have to embrace your uniqueness. You have to define what your life is going to be. And then you have to choose to step boldly into it. But you can. I dare you. Yep, still you. So if you want to join me on this journey for living a radical and intentional life, come on over to www.kathrynlang.com and sign up for the emails. And also be sure you come back each week for this series of podcasts all about living your radical and intentional life. Until next time, remember, be blessed and be a blessing.
Thank you for joining us for Growing Hope with Kathryn Lang, where we are sharing hope, encouragement, and inspiration to do more. Visit www.kathrynlang.com to invite Kathryn to be part of your event or to share your own stories of possibility living. Until next time, remember that a seed of hope planted and nurtured will grow up into a world of possibilities.